Welcome to the first in the series of the Get Carter Production webinars. This one is on digital audio and they're titled Digital Audio Masterclass. So let's share the folder. Here we go. If we could just have a little point of order before we start, if that's okay. Could everybody hit the little hand icon at the bottom, please, so I can see that you are, yes, thank you, Rini. Thank you, Dave. Yes, so everybody can hear me. So that's a big positive and that's a good start. The other good news is for you is that we're going to record this and so we'll supply it to you afterwards so you don't actually have to take any notes. So the question is this: why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we've been asked to demystify a little bit of the digital audio and what that space is. So when I first started in local radio sales, as it was at the time, or local audio sales, as they probably call it now, there were three radio stations to choose from in the northeast of England, because that's where I was based, and it would be the same very much all over the country. Now, there's probably over at least 3,000 audio sites that you could choose to put your brand on, or if you're a media buyer on here, I know there's some media buyers on here, that you could put your client's brand on. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore how you utilize these and the opportunities, because the opportunities are very much endless that have been presented on the back of this. So there's 4 areas that we're going to cover off. We're going to look at choices, we're going to look at targeting, we're going to look at costs, the inevitable costs, and then engagement. But before we do that, let's just have a little stat. I love a stat. So 70% of all live radio listening hours are done via a digital platform. That is a connected device. So absolutely enormous. And what that means is if you aren't utilising it, you are handing market share to your competition. Before we get into the choices, I just want to tell you a little bit about us. It's an unashamed little brag file. We're Get Carter Productions. We are an audio specialist agency. We're based in the northeast of England. We've been going for 23 years. We are called Get Carter because our ex-founder, Paul Carter, that's his surname, Get Carter Productions, and the very famous film that was filmed up here. He put together a team of audio specialists. That is all we do. So we started with radio ad production. That's what it used to be. Then we moved into music production. We have a music director. We have sonic production, and you'll hear some sonics in a second. We have a voice agency, and we've got now some content that goes with the digital audio, because with digital audio you need some content as well. I stress at this point for everybody on this call, we do not book any media. That is not what we do. We help you to engage with the message. There are specialists on this call, I know, and you probably have specialists if you are a brand that's on this call, or a company that's on this call, and that's who books it for you. We supply the engaging piece of creative. So before we go any further, I'm just going to play you a little show reel so that you can get a flavour for what we are all about, so you understand exactly where we sit in to the mix.
Get Carter Productions.
Alfa Romeo. It's a story of passion.
Try Toolstation.
We're renegades with a mission and a vision. No need for recognition, but we get it anyway. The award-winning Jeep Renegade range.
Subway, make it what you want.
And get all that from Ocean.
Just visit admiralslots.co.uk.
So we're going to dance with the Gruffalo.
Join us at Chessington World of Adventures.
No matter where you're from, all around the world, it's one unique, one special vibe.
Think about the Think Money credit card.
Get Carter Productions.
Okay, the one thing every piece of audio you've just heard there has in common is the fact that they have all been utilised on digital audio. First things first then, choices. What are the choices? The audio landscape has morphed, developed, grown. It is endless. It is huge. It has meant that you've moved from the 3 to the 3,000 that we talk about. So let's just have a look at some numbers to back this up. Connected audio listening has grown from 42 to 61% in the last 5 years, and it doesn't look like it's certainly not going to drop off. If anything, that will increase as Christmas comes now, with even more connected devices being fueling the market. Digital audio, I would break it down into 3 very obvious areas. There's the top sphere here, this top channel, which is live radio. So DAX, as I appreciate that DAX has some out of home, Octave, TuneIn, Xaxis, which is a specialist media buyers platform, and News UK. In the main, this would be for live radio, so you can listen to live radio via digital platforms, connected devices. As well as that, we then move into music on demand, so you'll all recognise the Spotify logo, the SoundCloud logo, and Deezer. You probably use them. That allows you to have access to people who are, gives you contextual relevance when they are in the mood to listen to your brand. And then from another choice point of view, we've got podcasts. We mustn't forget about podcasts. Buzzsprout, Aircast, one of the forerunners, and Apple. So when you look at that, these are just a flavour. And I hasten to add that this certainly is not an endless list, far from it, because I haven't got enough room on the screen to show you the platforms that allow you to then drop down into those channels. So these are the platforms that allow you to get into the 3,000. There's no right or wrong one to use. They all have different personalities and different pros and cons. So on-demand music listening accounts for 198 million listening hours. Enormous. Podcast listening has doubled in 5 years and accounts for 90 million listening hours. That also has increased. What this means is that the choices are endless, and for you and your clients, and that there are no constraints in relation to the choice. You are not constrained in the way that you were by some very geographical constraints or demographic constraints. The targeting is getting better and better, but we shall come on to that. But first things first, I'm going to play you a couple of commercials and explain to you how they utilised the choices and the platforms.
Open the door to your dream new home with Bellway. At Bellway's developments close to Edinburgh, we have a range of stunning new 2, 3, 4 and 5 bedroom homes available and ready to move into now. We're now offering up to 5% towards your deposit. Plus, with our Express Mover scheme, we'll help to make your move as stress-free and easy as possible, helping you to make yourself at home even quicker. Search Bellway Edinburgh to find out more. Selected plots and developments only. T's and C's apply.
Bristol Street Motors Ford is coming to Newcastle this December.
And this is your chance to join our brand new team.
As part of one of the UK's leading motor retail groups, we're looking for talented people to join us across every department,
including vehicle technicians, service advisors, sales executives and parts advisors.
If you've got the drive to help us launch our successful new dealership, in return, we'll offer you a competitive salary, pension scheme and first-class training.
We're looking to fill these roles immediately, so apply now. Search Bristol Street Motors Careers online.
And come and join the brand new team of Bristol Street Motors Ford Newcastle.
Okay, so the Bellway commercials, from a platform point of view, utilised Spotify and Aircast. So they went into specialist podcasting and Spotify, and the Bristol Street Motors commercial utilised DAX and Octave. Neither of those commercials ran on linear radio. Okay, so targeting. This is pretty key. This is crucial to the whole point. Targeting changed from a digital audio perspective with mobile phones. They absolutely changed the game. And there will be lots of people on this call that will know a lot more than I about targeting, but to give you a brief or a broad brushstroke over the top, your Apple ID on my iPhone 6 out of the Natural History Museum, or your Android ID has a huge amount of data inside of them. And what the digital audio platforms have and the exchanges have now is access to your mobile data. They have access to GP precision targeting, real-time footfall, and your app usage. So basically, you are now, instead of choosing under the constraints of an audio platform, i.e. a radio station in a geographical area, it is data-led. So we used to talk about the creative-led sell. This is the data-led. So you choose the target and everything follows suit from that. It is absolutely critical to how this works. And it also means for you that there is very little wastage for your brand or for your client. So how do we target? We've touched on some. It is endless, but I'm just going to give you an overview here. Location, you can put a pin in a map, you can put a fixed radius around it, you can go by street, town, postcode. It's very much up to you on the location. App usage, app usage and interest, one and the same thing. If somebody's on Auto Trader, you're an Auto Intender. If somebody's on Rightmove, if you've got pets at home, that data is shared, so we know that we can serve to those people, or rather that once you book it, that the exchanges can serve to those people. As well as that, you've got the straight demographics, so age, socio grouping, etc. Household, really important. Who's in the household? If you've got kids of a university age, you probably will see that there are messages that will end up on your connected devices about universities. That is not a surprise, because the connected devices are talking to each other inside of the household. And finally, and a really obvious one for me, and I need obvious stuff, it's purchase. So whatever you've bought, there is a link to the stuff, to some of the messages that you can be served from a data-led perspective. One of the things in and around this really obvious way of explaining is when you buy something on Amazon. You buy something on Amazon and you bought this, and they will then suggest something to you. Bought this, what about this? Absolutely great. So the thing about data-led, and this is the strength of the digital audio piece, or this is our take on the strength of the digital audio piece. You are still part of the community that is the audio/radio community, because the listener, whilst being served because of their preferences, still enjoys, and as does your brand, all the benefits of using the audio platform, the one-to-one medium. It's trusted, etc., etc. Just a little bit on location targeting, because there are some constraints. I've said there's no constraints. There are some constraints. You could get 1 million impressions in London, no problem at all adult impressions. You can get 300,000 impressions in Liverpool, no problem at all, because of the population. And you can get 100,000 in Aberdeen because of the population. You could get more, but there will be areas, if you are booking a certain amount of impressions, where it will take longer to deliver, and that is purely and utterly down to the population. So now I'm going to play you another couple of commercials, which will show you how we utilised some of the targeting, and how they utilised some of the targeting, and how we put the commercials together for them to back that up.
It's time to get away with your mates to amazing locations in the heart of the action. It's time for the coolest hotels, beach clubs and cocktail bars. Cheers! It's time to search for the holiday that's just your vibe at Dawson & Sanderson. Vibe by Jet2 Holidays has it all. So call off the search and book your next holiday now. Call into your nearest Dawson & Sanderson store or find us online.
My love of Spitfires came as a small boy from going to air shows with my dad.
This is Derek Rustling, historic aircraft engineer.
Working on Spitfires is a huge responsibility.
He's also a finance and sales manager at Virtue Motors.
And the same applies at work.
Maintenance complete, cleared for takeoff.
The care and expertise Derek takes over his beloved Spitfire is the same precision, passion and attention to detail he takes, helping you choose your next perfect car. Because at Virtue Motors, it's all in the detail. Visit Virtue Mercedes-Benz and Smart at Richfield Avenue, Reading.
Okay, so in the first commercial that we heard there for Dawson & Sanderson, it was holiday intenders and app usage and geographical. Now, when I say geographical, it was the call to action was at your nearest branch, because they had several branches in the geography that was relevant. For the second commercial that we heard there, it was much more tightened down. It was auto intenders and app usage again, but tightened down in and around the town, Reading, and then the street, the geography within Reading that they wanted to utilise. So now we're going to move on to cost. Okay, the question everybody asks is how much is it? It all sounds very expensive. It isn't. There are some minimum levels, and there is a range. There are lots of people on this call who are far more experienced than I in buying the media, who will know all about cost per thousands and all that kind of stuff. But for the brands that are on this call, roughly speaking, if you wanted to buy 100,000 impressions on any of these exchanges, it would be circa £1,500. Lots of these exchanges have a minimum order value, and that it tends to be higher than that, and it can be in around about 2k. DAX and Spotify being the two very obvious examples for me to cite on this one. In and around the commercials, so you've got the media that you buy in increments of not necessarily increments of 100,000, but if we use 100,000 as a baseline number, then you've got a commercial that needs to be produced to fulfill that media booking. The audio on that, any of those commercials that you've heard, would be circa £279 to produce. That's what we would charge. We're very proud of that because the actual equity rate card is nearly double that. But we've spoken to equity and we've spoken to all the major groups and all of the voices, and we've dropped back on, we have a rate card that our voices, not just our voices, but all the voices, because we've got access to every voice on a roster, will work to in relation to putting that together. Obviously, if you want a famous voice on, it's not £279, but I don't need to get into that for you. So that's the cost. This is where we fit in. We engage. This is the only part that we do, and I've got to be honest with you, it's a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes digital audio up to a point, right? The targeting isn't. The targeting is really, really important, and the exchanges and the platforms that give you access to the targeting are absolutely new and getting better and better. But in relation to engaging, there it is: who, what, why. And if you've been in the business for 1 year, 5 years, or 105 years, who, what, why in relation to a brief is who do you want to talk to, what do you want them to do, and why should they do it. I would extol the virtues of that for the media, because when you want to pinpoint down who you're targeting, who do you want to target, what do you want them to do, and why should they do it, is absolutely critical when you're getting into the targeting. So that's it. I'm now going to play another couple of commercials which will show you, and I'll be able to explain to you about the who, what, why on them.
Here he is, stocking up on your super noodles and beans then, student boy.
Hello, Pete. Nice to see you too.
Seriously though, how are you managing since you started back at college?
I'm fine, honestly. They give you info on all kinds of help and grants when you do a degree here. And remember, you don't have to pay back your student loan till you're earning over 27 grand.
Real lives with real life benefits at Blackpool and the Fylde College. Get the help you need to do the things you want to do. Find out more at blackpool.ac.uk.
I see you rolling by in a belter new MG with every single feature you want. But who's going to help you get it? You want an MG ZS?
We can do that.
And you don't want no stress?
We can do that.
Will your pals be impressed?
We can do that.
With a deal where you pay less?
We can do that.
Save £1,000 on a brand new MG ZS just by taking a test drive. Then pay $249 initial rental, then only $249 a month.
We can do that at Peter Vardy.
Peter Vardy.
Personal contract hire, 48 months, conditions apply.
Okay, so in the first commercial there for Blackpool and the Fylde College, we had adult students, okay, people that wanted to retrain. So that's lifestyle, that is app usage, and then obviously there's geo-targeting because it's in Blackpool, and they have a radius of how far people are prepared to travel for that kind of stuff. As well as that, then on the second commercial for Peter Vardy, which was quite an interesting one, in and around the targeting, because they wanted to brand the company as a fun and family-friendly company, not just about auto intenders, hence the creative in and around that with the sonic on the end, but also with the channels that they chose, that was also part of the targeting. So the creative was to follow the targeting on that. So that was those two. Okay, in summary, just to summarise everything, and I've touched on it beforehand, digital audio is absolutely fantastic. And if you and if it's not part of your media mix, it probably should be. If you're just using linear still, you should definitely think about this, because the targeting options are quite literally endless up to a point. You start with the target, the who. You decide on the budget, whether it's the client's budget, whether it's the brand's budget, and you think, okay, how much do we want to allocate to this? There are lots of different ways that you could use it. If you think about, if you've got a brand, you've got 250 odd outlets in the UK, and 5 of them are struggling. Instead of having to go broadcast, you can hone it down digital. In relation, the target might be the same, but you can just go in specific areas. It can become very cost effective from that perspective. You then book it. The guys on here, if you've got media bookers, they'll do it for you. If you haven't, please give us a shout, because we've got some friends who are on this call and who we know well, that we could put you in the right direction if you wanted some more advice specifically around the targeting, budgeting and the booking. Then you sign up on the creative. Hopefully we'll be involved in that, and hopefully be at the front end, because it's very important that the creative is put together in conjunction with the target. And then you go live, and then your campaign runs, and it sits in the platforms, and all of those competitors do their bit and serve it to your customers, and hopefully that generates more sales, more interest, brand awareness, etc. So that's it. It's a quick, how long have we been on? Yeah, 25 minutes, whiz around digital audio. When you signed up for this webinar, there was an offer, and it's no obligation, of a free 20-minute script call. So if you want to know how you could sound, or how your brand, the brands you're representing could sound, and you want to brief us in, please give me a shout. My email's on there. If you've got any feedback on this, I'd really appreciate it. Like I say, it's the first one. The second one is going to be in March, and it's going to be run by our musical director, Mark Thompson, and he's going to talk about sonic branding and acoustic brand triggers, and the work we've done around that, and the work and how we approach that. And so finally, thank you very much for your time, and one last shout, Merry Christmas.